Africa, the Untold Story, was inspired by Professor Asa Hilliard. And every time I saw Asa, he said the same thing to me over and over again. Whatever you do, never let them begin our history with slavery. So we start with thousands of years, going back to the ancient African civilization in Egypt, and we show the world what Africa has given to the world. I'm sorry. Sounds good to me. Sounds good to me.
Okay.
So we look at Africa, and we talk about the pyramids, for example. Today's technology cannot duplicate what they did thousands of years ago. Africa has given to the world first written language, mathematics, health, agriculture, and again the pyramids. Along this timeline, you also see an African queen named Queen Nzinga, who fought off the Portuguese for more than 40 years, which we have not seen in our history. Africa at one time was called our Babylon before it was divided by the colonies. Now, have you ever heard of the Berlin Conference? The Berlin Conference is when the European nations got down and divided Africa up. Now, we know that Britain was about that big. They called itself what? Great Britain.
Right.
So how are you that small and you call yourself Great Britain? And the second part of that is, their motto was, the sun never sets on the British Empire. That means wherever you go in the world, you're going to see us. We're going to be there. And one of their statesmen said before he died, he said, history will be kind to me because I intend to tell it. So he who tells the story can tell the way they want to tell it. We look at, after the Berlin Conference, they divided Africa. Britain, as small as it was, became the second largest colonizer of the entire African continent, second only to France. And I believe that Bishop Desmond Tutu said it best. So when they came to South Africa, we had the land and they had the Bible. They said to us, close your eyes and pray. We closed our eyes, we prayed. And we opened our eyes, they had the land, and we had the Bible. When you look at what has gone on in our past, Emory University has the largest collection of slave ship logs in the country. They can tell you what ships left from which port along the coast of Africa. They first went to South America, then they went to the islands, and then to North America. And we know that going away to the islands, they met up with Haiti. And Haiti defeated all the armies that came through there trying to take over Haiti. And so they vowed it would make Haiti the smallest, the poorest country in this hemisphere. So all those embargoes they put around Haiti, they did that to make sure that Haiti would be the poorest country in the hemisphere. But do you know that Haiti is now paying reparations to France?
Wow.
I'm going to say it again, Haiti is now paying reparations to France. As kids would say today, go figure.
Right.
When you look at the slave ships, we normally see them from an aerial view like this. So we decided to tell our story in a different way, not as an aerial view, but how it really happened. So right this way, there's a replica we built of a slave ship called the White Lion, a Portuguese slave ship. And this is how our ancestors made that voyage from Africa to the Americans. Looking at it this way, you see a different picture. They were chained together. They could not get out of those chains. Up top you see a picture of them being force-fed. To the left you see a picture like Amistad. Some of those ships were taken over and turned around and went back to Africa. They compromised the women, but they only came and hosed them down toward the end of the journey. And they reached the shore, what they saw was 250 fine, healthy Negroes just arrived from the Windward and Rice Coast. And this began the auction of our ancestors on the shores of America. 100 years later in New Orleans, this is 1835, another auction where they would list the people by name, basically, and tell what their qualifications were. A good cook, someone who was a hairdresser, somebody who's a good keeper of the children. One person here is a Miss Ann, Mary Ann, a child of Creole, aged 7 years old. How does a 7-year-old child process standing on an auction block? Maybe somebody comes from Mississippi and buys her father, takes him away. Maybe somebody comes from Georgia or South Carolina and buys her mother and takes her away. How does a 7-year-old child process seeing that happen, knowing she'll be sold next and she will never see her parents again? Mm-hmm. We know about Kunta Kinte in Roots.
Yes.
He was whipped publicly to make sure the message went across that if you do anything wrong, you'll be whipped publicly until you bleed, and this is our way of keeping you under control. This is a slave branding iron, like you brand cattle with a hot iron. This is not a tattoo, this is a branding iron. Put in fire, made hot, branded on your forehead or on your cheek. Excuse me. Thank you. And they would tell the slave catchers, this is our symbol. If you see anybody out there with this symbol on, bring them back to me, and I'll pay you for it. How much difference is there now, what we see almost every week, when some white officer sees a black man, and he has a gun, he has a taser, he has a blackjack, and a black man is running from him 40 yards away with no weapon. He shoots him in the back and says, I was afraid for my life. What's wrong with that picture? You ever heard of Henry Box Brown? He was born into slavery, but of all things he wanted to be free. He made contact with some people in Philadelphia, which is my hometown, which is where I'm from. There were a lot of Quakers in Philadelphia, a lot of abolitionists in Philadelphia, and a lot of the whites along the trail also helped people escape by having a huge blanket outside with a certain symbol on it. So this is a safe house. On your journey north, you can stop here as a safe house. He took himself to Philadelphia and called him Henry Box Brown.
Wow.
We'll learn about this in a few minutes.
Yes, yes.
This is a artist rendering of an auction, which are now out on Auburn Avenue. In Auburn Avenue in 1967, Fortune magazine called Auburn Avenue the richest Negro street in the world.
Mm-hmm.
About a few blocks down on the left-hand side, you'll see WERD Radio. It is the first black-owned commercial radio station in the country. On the first floor of this building was Dr. King's office. This lady here had a beauty college. Miss Horwick had a funeral home. Excuse me. Miss Cunningham had the Royal Peacock, where people came to perform. And on the corner here was a building built by the Oddfellows called the Oddfellows Building, by some fellows in Philadelphia who came down and dedicated to by Booker T. Washington in 1912. On the corner was a drugstore called the Gate City Drugstore. This is a replica of that Gate City Drugstore. And what you'll see up here is this man, excuse me, named Moses Ingram. He worked with pharmacists, liked what they were doing, and wanted to become a pharmacist. But he couldn't become a pharmacist because Georgia law prohibited a black person from becoming a pharmacist. So these 5 white men got behind him, helped him out, and he became the first black pharmacist in Georgia. He had sold this to 2 men named Yates and Milton, and they had 5 drugstores here in Atlanta. This is down west of the Downs. Maynard Jackson's grandfather. Very, very much involved in voting. This is the Citizen Trust Bank, where these people got together and made some significant impact on Auburn Avenue. Okay. Thank you. Right down here you will see, this is the record of the Yates and Milton drugstore. And here you see, there's 2 doors down from here, was the Atlanta Daily World. It was the oldest black daily newspaper in the country, started by C.E. Scott. This man here was a former slave, Alonzo Herndon. When he came to Atlanta, he realized that blacks could not buy insurance. So the churches had to have what they called a burial fund, took up offerings so folks could bury their loved ones. Nathaniel Bronner and his brother started the Bronner Brothers, became the largest hair care show in the world. Alonzo Herndon started a life insurance company, became the 2nd largest life insurance company in the nation, 2nd only to North Carolina Mutual. The Bronner Brothers, Alonzo Herndon, all these people came to Atlanta and did some marvelous things. But my question becomes, how come former slaves and former sharecroppers can build an empire that free slaves can't maintain? Over here is a film for the Clayton State College about voting. Started with the Constitution, which said all men are created equal. What they really were saying was all white men are created equal, not even white women, because women could not vote. I don't know how it would feel to be lying in your bed at night and wake up to some sound, look out your window, and you see these crosses burning on your lawn, and they intimidated, without question, blacks from even voting. And when blacks were able to vote, you had to pass the test. Go to the courthouse and pass the test. Part of that test was how many jelly beans were in this jar. If you got the answer wrong, you failed the test, you could not vote. It was later changed to a bar of soap. And the question was how many bubbles are in this bar of soap. If you couldn't answer it correctly, you failed the test, and you could not vote. This is something that still baffles me. 1800s, the 5 first black members of the U.S. Congress. 1800s. All I can say is somebody must have needed them very badly and put them in that office. As the civil rights movement moved forward and got worldwide attention, people from other countries began to question America and say, what are you all doing? You say you're all so great. You say you all have all this equality, and yet you're mistreating all these people, which led to the Voting Rights Act, which Dr. King and others made happen, signed by Lyndon Johnson. But keep in mind, this was not law. This is a Voting Rights Act. They can still sit down and vote on this whenever they want to, and change it anytime they want to change it. When we come to the South, we see many signs. Of course, white drinking fountains, colored drinking fountains, colored entrance, white entrance. In theaters, blacks had to sit in the balcony, could not sit on the first floor. What really blows my mind, in 1929, El Paso, Texas, a sign on the building that says, no dogs, Negroes, Mexicans. Think about that. This is an exhibit on black inventions. This is a black invention. You did not learn about this in school. Never heard about it in school at 12 years of school, 18 years of school, how long you went. But a black man invented and patented the mailbox. For our young people, come here, young man. Here, sip a beer. You want to see the next black inventor? Take a look in here. How is it? All right. You can be the next black inventor.
That's right.
I know you heard of the Super Soaker. His office is about 4 blocks from here. But 2 years ago, he won a $73 million lawsuit against Hasbro. They were selling his toy, one of the best-selling toys in the world, the Super Soaker. They were withholding his royalties. And he walked away with a $73 million lawsuit. Your computer runs fast now because of this man, this black person here from IBM, who made and put into process the method of making computers run fast. The first black woman to have a patent was Miss Sarah Boone. Her patent was an ironing board. This patent here had what we call a Dominant signature. We could not have laser surgery today for cataracts. It had not been for Dr. Patricia Bath, who invented and patented this process to arrange for laser surgery. A microphone. Now, if you can see this, the young folks just died about this one. Michael Jackson has a patent. He invented what he called the anti-gravity shoe. He had a shoe made with a hole cut out the bottom of the shoe. And when he stood on the stage, a peg came up from the stage, hooked into the shoe. That's why you thought he did it. The light bulb for them. We know that Thomas Edison invented the light bulb, but Louis Latimer, a black man, made the bulb light up.
Wow.
The gas mask, the traffic signal, black inventions. Telegraph, the dry cleaning process, first automatic elevator door, breadcrumbing machine, lantern, mop handle, fire escape, golf tee, like that Tiger Woods, lemon squeezer, lawn sprinkler, lawn mower, the first black automatic elevator door, mobile refrigeration, ice cream scoop, shoe lashing machine, surgical needle, a home security system by a black female. I know you all know about Charles Drew and blood plasma. Do you know how he died? Does anybody know how he died?
Yeah.
Say it again?
You couldn't get the plasma
After
after he prayed.
creating this whole thing with storing blood, he had a car accident. He took him to the hospital. And when they came at the hospital to see who it was, and saw he was black, he turned around and walked away. He died in his car outside the hospital.
Wow.
Black female, home security system. You almost done. This is our future plan. We built on the parking lot. There'll be a walk through history like Epcot Center. We're going to transport you back to ancient Africa. You will walk through every phase of our history, from ancient Africa to colonization, to the slave ship, to civil rights marches, to schools being free, all because we know what we need to do to change the narrative. Last is right here.